Anyway, today we're going to talk about a serious subject, conspiracy theory for the coronavirus, because we have a new theory altogether. It's either the coronavirus was a warning from the Greys, or it's come from the Greys.
He said a warning from the Greys, not from the grave.
Yeah, from the Greys. The alien class or race.
Time out.
Here we are back.
It'll get you every time.
Every time. So, as I was saying, the alien race known as Greys may have sent a warning, or were trying to infect us with COVID, coronavirus. It's very important to remember that name, coronavirus, because what we're going to look at here is some subtle hints that came from them. The first is concerning Roswell. Now, most people think that the spaceship crashed in Roswell, which it did not crash in Roswell. It crashed outside of Roswell. And most people think that it was a one spaceship incident, when actually there is supposedly information that it was two airships, or whatever, UFOs, or flying saucers at the time, that hit each other. And one went and bounced off and landed somewhere else, while the other one crashed nearer Roswell.
UFO mania reached a fever pitch in the summer of that year when the Army Air Force reported recovering a crashed saucer in New Mexico. The next day, the government claimed the disc was only the wreckage of a weather balloon. July 2nd, 1947, Roswell, New Mexico, the time and place of the most significant event in UFO history. Something crashed on a remote sheep ranch and was confiscated by the military. But what crashed remains a mystery, fiercely debated for more than 50 years. Roswell, New Mexico. It's as quiet and peaceful today as it has been for decades. But on July 6, 1947, that tranquility was shattered by a local newspaper headline. Air Force captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. The story described wreckage of a flying disc found near a place called Corona, based on a press release written by the public information officer at Roswell Air Base, Lieutenant Walter Haut.
This building here, building number 84, is a building I believe that they brought materials from the Corona crash,
Crashed in Corona, Mexico. Corona, New Mexico.
Corona. Gee, I never would have,
By the time the B-29 with Jesse Marcel and some of the wreckage got to the headquarters 2 hours after they left in Fort Worth, Texas, the fix was already in to kill the story.
No, says nuclear physicist and part-time UFO researcher Stanton Friedman, who's been investigating the Roswell crash for over a decade. He says that while Marcel was in the air, the Roswell base commander, Brigadier General Roger Ramey, got orders from Washington to cover up the incident. Stanton Friedman contends that wreckage from an unidentified craft landed 200 miles away from the Roswell site. Friedman and other ufologists believe that this proves that there was not one but two crashes over New Mexico on July 2nd, the result of a spectacular mid-air collision. And at the second site, there were survivors.
When I first came up to the craft, the creatures were laying like this in a line, side by side, and the live one was over here.
Description matches those from people who claim to have seen aliens. 4 feet tall, grayish skin, large eyes, long skinny arms and fingers. Anderson recalls 2 aliens were dead, a third dying, and a fourth alien survivor seemed to be trying to communicate.
It does support my theory of why are this hugely advanced technology can travel vast distances through interstellar space, and they pancake on the desert floor. Supports my theory of the kids got the keys to the car and they're drag racing. Corona, New Mexico.
We get this information, of course, years later. How late was it after the, 1947 when the crash supposedly occurred?
Oh, they kept Roswell quiet for 30 years.
30 years. 30 years the government kept a thumb down on that information until it finally got into Stanton Friedman's hands, right? And
And
so
it's Stanton Friedman stumbled upon it by accident.
by accident. And it's also by accident that we learn about this actual second crash that had happened because of the two flying saucers hitting off each other, because the kids got the keys to the car or to the saucer, because they say it was at Corona. That's the first clue that we have for this conspiracy of aliens spreading disease.
Corona.
No. It has nothing to do with that, sorry. Nor does it have anything to do with your Corona beer.
I didn't know that. Well, that's
Okay.
some of them would be looking there, wouldn't they?
Anyway, so the other information is this man who claims to have been a scientist working on the flying saucers in Area 51. Actually, I don't think he actually claimed to work on the flying saucers, but he saw them there. He was working on another project for propulsion or something like that in there that was based on the flying saucer, and he saw the flying saucers. What was his name again?
Bob Lazar.
If these mysterious craft are being piloted by an alien civilization, what is their mission? Why Earth? And why now? The attitude of the United States remains very different. UFO experts claim our government is conducting top-secret research into UFOs in the middle of the Nevada desert. South of a dry lake bed known as Area 51 is a place known as S4, allegedly home to a super-secret government research facility. In the course of our investigation, we found a scientist who says he used to work there. Robert Lazar was shocked when he first discovered what it was he would be working on.
I got out of the bus. I was told to walk directly through the hangar, and immediately, even before entering the hangar, you can see the edge of a disc. This is your classic flying saucer, two inverted pie plates, if you wish, with a segmented larger area dome on top. Within minutes of that, I finally realized that this had nothing to do with something the government was producing. And that was quite shocking because everything inside was small. This was a full-size craft, 30, 35 feet in diameter, maybe 40. But you're looking at seats that are, 18 inches off the ground, obviously made, for something smaller. And certainly it wasn't made for children to play in.
Lazar says there were 9 spaceships in all, and he claims to have seen one fly.
It began to lift off the ground almost silently. There was a hiss sound, like a corona discharge, like a corona discharge, like a corona discharge you hear around high voltage systems, accompanied by a faint, it probably would have been brighter at night, a faint blue glow around the bottom. As the craft approached about 30 feet, 20 feet, something like that off the ground, that corona discharge disappeared. The sound stopped and the craft stood there silently.
So folks, did you hear that? Did you hear what Bob Lazar had to say? He said there was corona spewing out of that alien, I almost said ancient alien craft, that alien craft. There was corona spewing out of it, corona everywhere. This is coronavirus warnings. Crash near corona, spewing corona. They tried to warn us, or they're poisoning us. And so NASA actually has a plan that they started instituting and putting together this year, because we know we're going to be traveling to Mars here relatively soon, probably in our lifetime, as long as we don't die from coronavirus. In our lifetime, we hope to be able to travel to Mars. So they're talking about, well, when we start getting these samples of soil and rock and whatever, water samples eventually, or ice or something that they ever get out, even from underground, they're going to have a containment system put into place to keep that stuff locked up, and even when they bring it back to Earth, because there is the possibility that primitive life forms such as bacteria and viruses may exist on some of the planets out there, that when we start exploring them, and if you bring them back to a mass population and just immediately open it up and start chipping away on the rock, you might release something. Or you start pouring
That was
ice cubes or something.
that was back in 1996, and that made it all the way to the White House. I remember Bill Clinton mentioned it in a press conference. Well, they had seen what looked like might be skeletal remains of microbes. It has since been discredited.
Yeah.
Have any of you seen the movie or read the book or seen the movie The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton? Remember the first couple of Apollo missions? They would splash down in the ocean, bring them aboard the aircraft carrier, put them in these suits and quarantine them in a trailer for 2 weeks, because even then they weren't sure if there were little alien microbes.
Well, and so there is a lot of interest in what could actually be in space. There is a organism, I think it's, I have to look up its name. You'll probably see it on the screen once I look it up again. That can actually survive in space. It's the most versatile microorganism that they find here on this planet. It can be in those hot lava, underwater, heavy pressure places. It can survive in space. It has kind of a bare sort of puppy dog look to it, actually, and I think that's what the name is based on. And I don't know why it's fleeting me right now. Do you happen to recall the?
I
name of
know what
the
you're talking
bear?
about. It's like
Yeah.
down in the Marianas Trench.
Yes,
They
it's-
send these remote cameras
Uh-huh.
down, and these volcanic vents are spewing from the ocean floor. And they
Mhm.
found nothing theoretically should be able to survive at that depth, but little microorganisms there.
Yeah, microorganisms doing great, and it'll survive in space too as well, they say. So, you know, there are organisms that can possibly be out there that we have yet to know about, or maybe have landed on this planet somewhere. And again, eventually someday somebody's going to chip a rock or dig a hole just in the right spot.
Well,
Huh?
again, going back to the Apollo program, Apollo 12 landed about 200 yards away from an old Surveyor space probe that landed there a couple of years earlier. And there's a picture that one of the astronauts, and they took one of the plates or something off of it to bring it back home. And guess what they found when they took it to the lab in Houston? They found microorganisms on it, which obviously came from Earth when they were preparing the ship to launch. But they survived. They were doing very well on the moon, on the surface of the moon.
And maybe way, did the gray aliens warn us about Corona, or did they give us Corona? You decide. No, don't decide.
Well, there is another
Wait.
theory. There is
Uh-oh.
another theory.
Oh
and
no! Yes.
This will be up on the screen.
Oh,
Something we found on the internet, so you know it has to be true.
it's absolutely
Wake
true.
up, sheeple. The truth is so damn obvious. Something about 5G cell towers
Mhm.
with a weaponized 5G bat. COVID-19 mind control beam being
You gotta
generated
have
by
a
the bat's
beam.
radar.
Bat's radar.
Well, you'll see,
But it's
see
5G
the
powered.
graphic here. It's just
Absolutely.
stuff that makes me lie awake nights and stare at the ceiling.
This show is brought to you by Reynolds Wrap. When you have completely insane conspiracies, it's best to wrap your head in Reynolds Wrap.
Mhm.
All right, it's hot and sweaty in here. Cut.
We gotta
What?
do this, yeah.
So don't forget, stop looking down at your phones and start looking up to the skies. And I am sweating in this thing. Oh my word. I'm gonna be covered in sweat.